All right, your bell ringer for, by the way, YLC stands for Your Life in Christ. So that's why I always failed to explain that early in morality. But the textbook behind Tobin that's purple, not that we're using textbooks this year, but the orange ones, those are the sacrament ones. But the purple ones are entitled Your Life in Christ, YLC, Chapter 1, Lesson 3. And we're going to talk about how we treat the planet. Today, Jeremiah chapter 2, God says, pulled you out of slavery, pulled you through the Red Sea, guided you through the desert, brought you to the promised land, and you defiled it. You didn't take care of it. God doesn't give us the specifics about the problems that existed with their treatment of the promised land, but he says, I expected better from you. I gave you this beautiful land, and you ran it down, and you didn't take care of it. You took it for granted. And so they're going to be punished for that. Some of you are going to be punished for giving you really bad answers and not reading the 2 verses that I asked you to do. Mangia la guzza patata zucche, as they say in Italian. This is 3 bell ringers in a row from period 7, where some of y'all are just blowing them off, not reading 2 Bible verses. So just know Jeremiah 2, 6-7. All right. Okay, footprint calculator. You remember you took this quiz and they asked you how far do you drive every week? In what car do you drive? What's the gas mileage of that car? What's the size of your house? What other questions? How often do you eat animal products as opposed to just vegetables and fruit, I guess? Milk is an animal product. Yeah. I love milk, Lexi says. Yay, milk. Milk. Milk was a bad choice. And let me show you what this looks like across the planet. Here is the Earth. Okay. Of course, red is bad. Green is good. The United States of America is one of the worst, actually, in the world when it comes to the way we live our lives. We live in such a high consumption culture that we consume a lot of things, but our country by itself is not able to sustain our consumption. So let me break down some numbers. With all of our forests and our wonderful ecosystem in the United States of America, we have 3.4 GHA. I don't entirely know what GHA is, but it's the amount of energy the average person is largely able to consume and maintain in our country. But we consume more than double that in 2017. And so we're in the debt. China, India, the Middle East is bad because that's a lot of oil. See, the problem is we pull up oil. Oil is not, we're not capable of producing oil. We refine it, of course, as y'all know. But they pull up oil. It's not renewable. When you burn gas, it releases emissions into the air, greenhouse gases. And what do those do? Attaboy, Sheldon, weakens the ozone layer, which protects us from the burning heat in the sun, which is miraculously around the planet. Weakens that layer. There's more and more sun. And then you have, with more sun comes skin cancer and global warming. Yes, 2 answers I got. Global warming. We had the hottest summer on record in the history of the world, in the history of recorded history. Yes. It just finished this past summer. I had a friend lives in Arizona. They experienced over 50 days where the temperature was over 120 degrees in Arizona. What? She's out in the middle of nowhere, desert. She's a sister. Um, so this is what's happening. We're releasing pollution largely from our cars and the burning of coal and gas and oil. That goes in the atmosphere. The planet gets hotter and hotter. When the temperature gets hotter and hotter, what do? You turn on the air conditioner. You're on a roll today. You turn on the air conditioner. You say, "Ooh, got to turn this down." And what are you doing? You're losing the electricity. The number one drainer of electricity in your house, the number one cause of why your electric bill is so high is hands down your air conditioning. With your air conditioning, I tell you, if you were to shut down your air conditioning, you would be miserable, true, but your energy bill would at least be cut in half. That's how much. Half of the energy is consumed by cooling it in the summer, heating it on days like today, or nights like last night. This being said, you see how it perpetuates the problem because most of your homes run off of gas and they run off of coal. Those are the number one and number two resources that LUS and Slemco use to provide electricity to your home. And it perpetuates the problem. We use more air conditioning, the planet gets hotter. So we turn on the air conditioning more and the planet gets hotter. And it's a vicious cycle. In 60 years, they say the climate in Lafayette, Louisiana, they did this for every city on the globe. But the way the planet is heating, 60 years from now. So y'all are retired, your grandparents. The climate in Lafayette is going to be the same climate that currently exists at the southern tip of Mexico. Hot. It's going to be unbearable. And like I said, what you can do, you can turn on the air conditioning more and more. It's going to perpetuate the problem. The planet gets hotter and hotter and hotter. Right now, the coral reefs are dying because the first thing to absorb the heat is the ocean. The oceans have super high temperatures right now. And so a lot of the fish dying, migrating. The coral reefs, of course, they can't move. They're just like plants, of course. They're just dying off quickly. 70% of the ice in at the poles of the earth has melted away, hence why the ocean is rising. And what happens to Louisiana as the ocean rises? We are eroding. We are losing football fields. I'm pretty sure the state of Louisiana is going to lose a football field by the time this class is over of land. The water just keeps coming up, coming up, coming up. Plants hotter and hotter, less and less ice, more and more water. What will Lafayette look like in 50 or 60 years? They say this planet. Now, I'm not a scientist and not an environmentalist, but the people that are bringing the world to attention on this are saying that the earth is only going to be habitable. It's only sustainable at this rate for 80 more years. And we won't have a climate where we can grow food. We won't have a climate where we will have fresh water. We will not have a climate that we can live in. Because I know you think I'll just crank up the AC. There's 7 billion people in the world. I'd be surprised if 2 billion people in the world had air conditioning. And so what are you doing? You're making life more miserable for the people that don't have air conditioning. They're the ones that are going to be dying. So we're in a real crisis. What helps our planet, of course, is our planet itself and its natural resources. So let's go to Brazil, right? Because Brazil's really green. Let's get some good news, Mr. Peo. Brazil used to be producing with its rainforest well into the 20s with the diversity and all the positive natural energy that comes from it. But they've been cutting down their rainforests, and now they're producing maybe 1/3 of what they could be because we cut down the rainforest and we use the wood. Bad news there. Get out of here. Let's see what other countries are supposed to be green and good. Let's go to Canada. That's a little green. Used to be 15. Now it's down. Well, now it's at 15. It used to be at 27. Once again, we cut down rainforests. We don't allow for the good energy to be renewed to preserve our planet. It's bad news. Bears. Got 80 years left. You know, do you want to have grandkids or not is kind of the question that's facing humanity right now.
So the people that speak out about global warming, and like the big thing, like what do they want us to do? Just stop running the AC? Like what?
Yeah. There's a couple things. Let me get the eraser. I've actually seen an advertisement on the Thruway. I don't think it's there anymore. What do you normally set your house, or your parents set your house thermostat at over the summer? It's a hot summer. You want a cool house. Keep the house at what temperature?
69 or 70.
69, 70 is about average. The Paley household, 72. Saves a lot of energy. You have no idea how much just 1 degree is going to save you in energy. Yeah, there's that spring and fall. We will have the windows open until about noon, and it's great. Refreshes the house, nice clean air. Yeah, so, but you can't do that in the June and July, August. It's just, I mean, you can. It's actually not good for the house because you're going to let all the humidity inside the house, and then you're going to grow mold. So there's issues there. They say that if you run a fan in the room, the fan drops the room temperature 4 to 5 degrees. So, which is why I can run it at 72 if I'm like real hot after a workout, or I just went for a bike ride with my boys. The thermostat can be at 72. I don't need to turn it down and kill a lot of energy. What I do is I turn on the fan, and we're looking at 68 degrees in the house. And now you say, well, you turn on the fan on, that's energy. Turning on a ceiling fan is it's not even comparable to the amount of energy it takes for your whole air conditioning system. Not only that, but I'm just cooling the room that I'm living in when I'm watching TV. When you turn on the air conditioning, you gotta cool your whole house. So this is small things. That's a small thing you can do to save energy. Turning the lights off when you leave a room. Unplugging your cell phone charger when you're not charging your cell phone. That uses a little bit of energy. There's little things we can do to be more sensitive. This is the big one, though. That's one small thing that you can do today. Heating your house, though. This time of year, we're heating our house. So what do we do there? We set the thermostat at like 68, 69, keep us warm. Well, bring it down to 67 and put on a sweater. You know, you're saving your own body energy, your body temperature to warm yourself. These are things we can do. Right, Lane? All right, good. This being said, doing those little things is not enough. They say that. They're like, it's important we try to do those, but it's not enough. So, what did Mr. Peo do last year? I got solar panels. I'm showing you, I have an app on my phone that shows me the energy production every day out of my house or in my house. Now, I'm going to show you a perfect day. I've got 30 solar panels on my roof, 3 feet by 5 feet. They take in a lot of sun. Sun comes up about 7, but they're on the back of my house, and the sun rises in front of my house, so they're not going to see the sun until about 10 a.m. But starting at 10 a.m., I got this bell curve. This is a perfectly sunny day, and I produce, having solar panels on my roof, 50 kilowatt hours. Now, on June, July, August in Louisiana, the AC is going to kick on here. And so I'm burning coal and gas there, and I'm burning coal and gas there. But you see, this is a big game changer. You see, what I was doing, what I do every day in the summer in Louisiana, and some of you probably burn more than I do, 70 kilowatt hours. But if I produce 50, it means that my coal and gas is only 20, and I pay Slemco for 20 kilowatt hours. Solar energy, windmills, wind energy, Some people, I've heard this, I haven't seen an update, but they try to receive the natural renewable energy that we get from like waves in the ocean, even. Um, and that's one of the big political debates. Do we invest in green energy like solar panels and windmills and all these things? Tesla cars, electric cars. Um, there's a girl actually. So Mr. Peo, because I have solar panels, what was my Earth number? How many Earths does it take to sustain the Peo Lady family lifestyle? 3.1. And I got solar panels. Let's go to period 7. How we doing period 7? Oh, you spread out all over the map. We got a lot of 3s. We got some 4s. We got 5s. The most common number we'll say is about 4.8. But then we got a couple of people. More than one of you put more than 8 worlds. And we know Lexi gave us a confession 7.5. Yeah, 7.5 Earths is what it takes to maintain the Lexi Gidry lifestyle. And you know what they looked at? They looked at what are you eating? Um, the more meat you eat, the more energy you're consuming. So actually, last year I took the same quiz. I got about, I forget if it was 6 or 7. But in the past year, I got the solar panels, and in the past year, I've dedicated myself to eating less meat, and I cut it in half. So now I'm down to 3 Earths that it takes to sustain the paleo. I had a girl in a class, the lowest score. Yep. The lowest score of the junior class came from a girl who I didn't get a permission to release her name. They have their own animals, cows, chickens. They get their own eggs, their milk, their dairy. Those things are not bad to eat necessarily um, if you have easy access to them. It's very green, actually, to have your own chickens and harvest the eggs. But the minute you have to create a styrofoam container or a plastic container, store them there, and put them in a refrigerator for 3 weeks before they get sold in the grocery store, all that is consuming a lot of energy for a dozen eggs. That's where it's not too green. The refrigeration and the energy needed to maintain it. This being said, she, who lives off her land and has solar panels, 1.9 Earths. It takes this. She's still not at the natural level. Why? She drives a car. And she doesn't. I think she drives a regular sedan, probably 30 miles a gallon. Not too bad. But we're in trouble. Our American lifestyle is not sustainable, and it's going to take serious sacrifices for us to change this trend, so that our grandchildren can live here and not move to Mars. What about? Well, I don't know Wally. No, I've never seen Wally.
Basically, they just move it to space because the Earth is so hot. It's really good.
All right, there's no notes you have to write down from this slide, but I want you to read the words of Pope Francis. Pope Francis, love him or hate him, he has brought a lot of attention to this subject. In fact, his first real encyclical letter to the church was about we need to take care of this planet. Pope Francis was a chemist before he felt the call to be a priest. So he's very science-minded. And he, like 99% of scientists, say global warming is a fact. And it's an issue. And the clock's ticking. He says, and this is your transition slide from lesson 2 about your body to lesson 3 about planet Earth. The acceptance of our bodies as God's gift is vital for welcoming and accepting the entire world as a gift from the Father and our common home. So I taught you have to accept your body, you have to embrace your body, make the most out of your body. It's not yours entirely. God gave it to you. So you got to take care of it. Same thing with planet Earth. You have to see it as a gift. You have to see it as good. If you do that, you're going to use it wisely. And you're going to buy a smaller home that doesn't take as much electricity to power. You're going to buy a more fuel efficient car. You're going to turn on the fan. You're going to do all the things because you care. If for nobody else, the poor people who are sweltering in it. All right. I didn't finish that actually. That quote from Pope Francis. If we think that we enjoy absolute power over our own bodies, this turns subtly into thinking that we enjoy absolute power over creation. And so it's just a further elaboration on we have to see ourselves as responsible to take care of this planet. When God, and you've seen this Bible passage before, God said, let's make man our image and likeness. What does that mean? Remember, we're asking in this chapter, what does it mean to be human? And it means, in part, to have dominion over the fish, the birds, the cattle, the animals, the creatures, everything that crawls on the ground. We have dominion, which means lordship, which means authority, but not absolute authority. Man's dominion over inanimate and other living beings granted by the Creator is not absolute. You have to think about two things morally when you make big decisions, like a house, like a car, or how you're going to get to school every day. You know, if you and your neighbor, this is one example. They asked you in that survey, how often do you carpool? If you and your next door neighbor both come to Turlings every day, it's great that you have your own cars, and I know you love your car because you're at that age where it's new for you. But can you make that sacrifice and say, hey, let's carpool, let's save gas, let's do our little bit to save this planet? It's baby steps that are going to, maybe save it. You have to consider two things: the quality of life of your neighbor, and number two, respect for the integrity of creation. You're writing those down? Okay. I said you didn't have to write anything down from the last slide, not this slide. But we're describing man's dominion and how we're supposed to take care of the planet. God says, Adam, you got to till and keep it. You got to take care of it. Well, Adam's got to think about how to provide for Eve, how to take care of Eve, his neighbor, and he's got to say what's good, what's best for the animals, what's best for these plants to keep them alive.
Why does God have to figure this out?
I don't get your question.
Like, if he has to figure out what to do with. He said something about dealing with Eve.
Yeah, well, what it says here in the Catechism is you have to ponder the quality of life of your neighbor. Adam's only got one neighbor, so you know maybe that was a bad example, but we have to think about who we're impacting. You know, when we make these decisions. You know, um, yeah, it's a vicious cycle. Especially in Louisiana, this is a sensitive topic. I've got just a tad bit of courage in me just to teach about this in Louisiana. Why Louisiana is this a sensitive topic? The oil field. Louisiana's number one economic growth is the oil field, which, yes, has largely tanked yet again with the pandemic. But if we're saying that burning gas is bad for the environment, categorically, it needs to stop, and Louisiana says that's how we make our money, well, that's a problem for Louisiana. But if we keep doing the gas thing, we keep losing our land because the ocean's rising. So we got to pick. Do you want land or do you want money? Do you want protection from the sun through the ozone layer, or do you want money? Here's the scary thing, y'all. I love this state. Hope to die here, and that's on YouTube. But here's the thing. Let's say this is a hot summer day with no clouds. I produce this energy, my solar panels. Let's say it's a cool day with no clouds. We're talking like 60 degrees, man. I don't need all 50 kilowatts that I produce. So what happens is it goes back into the system and I send it back through the meter to Slemco. Slemco takes maybe as much as 30 kilowatt hours from the Paoletti house in Breaux Bridge and sells it back to you. That's fine. That's good. Green energy, right? There was a day not too long ago in Louisiana that Slemco would pay me for this because I produced it and they're selling it for me. Lawmakers came in and they got rid of that. They said if people are producing solar power, we're not going to pay them for it. Why? Because it takes away from the gas industry. So we don't want people to go solar because it's going to harm the oil industry that Louisiana is so dependent on. So they are literally suppressing green energy so that the oil field can stay in existence or maintain its large profits. And that's going to be on the ballot one day for you. Do you vote for or against solar power when your state is so dependent on the oil field? You know, but I mean, that is, those lawmakers are going to have to. They're accountable for a lot of damage, I think. Well, I was taught this before I went into solar and I bought solar, but just the greed. It's for money. It's for money.
So if we get rid of the oil field industry and we're getting power off of what are those
Coal.
solar panels?
Oh yeah, solar panels. Yeah.
And the amount of people that work in the oil field, where are they supposed to go if the oil field?
Well, here's the thing. To be ingenuitive, to stay with the times, the oil field itself has to get into solar. They can be the ones putting the solar panel. They got the money. They can make solar panels. They can put it out there. They can take in the energy. They can sell it. But they don't. They're not jumping into that boat. I think ExxonMobil is. ExxonMobil is looking at ways to get into green energy and invest there. You got to move with the times. You got to move with what's good. If you just say no, screw that, we're going to live off of oil. Well, you might be hurting yourself, actually. Louisiana might be hurting itself if we don't adjust to the direction that we need to go in to preserve the planet. So, yeah, you're going to have to adjust. Okay, number 2 here on this list is respect for the integrity of creation. You got to care about the animals. And listen, you know Mr. Pale's not a big animal lover, but we got issues with the animals. Let me show you this walrus video. This is viewer discretion advised. If you are a sensitive soul and you love animals, you do not want to watch this.
I don't understand. Why are they going up there? Like, literally to the top of the rockiest part of the cliff.
Once at the top of the 80-meter cliffs, they rest until it's time to return to the sea in search of food.
That's the last little section, isn't it? The really steep bit, and they all just, it's really steep, that bit.
One's going to go. There's one right on the edge. There's probably 200 or 300 dead walrus on like a half-mile stretch of beach here. And then exhausted because they have to swim 100 miles now to get to food, and then coming back here because it's the only place to sleep. They used to sleep on the ice, dive down, eat the food, sleep on the ice, easy. And now they're swimming 100 miles, coming to this place, climbing cliffs, and they're just exhausted and falling down and either being killed, falling, or just crushing each other because there's several thousand crammed onto little tiny bits of beaches.
This is the sad reality of climate change. They'd be on the ice right now if they could be, but there's no option but to come to land.
Let me summarize for you. I know it's hard to hear, and the volume wasn't working. Walruses live on ice. They live on ice. They slip off the ice. They go get their fish. They come back. 70% of the ice in the northern pole is gone. They don't have a place to live. They have to live on land. It's too hot for them. Their bodies aren't used to this. And so these documentary producers, and you can find Our Planet on Netflix, they have the theory that climate change is causing these walruses to actually commit suicide and jump off a cliff because the world's getting so hot. It's unbearable. That's the implication, that they 200 to 300 of them intentionally slip off the cliff. I can't, I'm like I said, I'm not a scientist, but this is what's happening to many endangered species that don't have a climate. The climate's changing so quickly that they don't have a place to go. And I don't mean to be doomsday, but in truth, if this planet's got 80 years left, we're going to slowly slip into where it's too hot for us to live. And these are going to be human people that are going to be doing this because we won't be able to bear the heat that we live in. So it's now or never, for planet Earth. You got to care for creation. You got to care about how this impacts even animals. They don't have the same value as we do, but you got to think about them. You got to care for them. Here are some other things we do that are bad for creation. Of course, pollution. There's land pollution and there is air pollution. Throwing your trash, your fast food meal, half of it's eaten. You don't want the other half. You throw it out the window. Horrible, horrible for the environment. Shame on you. Animals are going to come eat that. It's not good food for the animals. You're going to direct them from their natural habitats, as well as releasing toxins into Mother Earth. And I see pollution from when I leave my house in Bro Bridge all the way to when I turn the corner to come to Turlings. I think our campus is pretty clean, but I mean, you get off the interstate there, near Chick-fil-A, and it's just like, there's just trash everywhere. We just put it out there and we don't even care. Of course, air pollution is a top reason. All of our industries and our factories burning things that are bad for us. When I was a kid, now listen, I wasn't raised in like California where we hug trees, y'all. I'm not that kind of person. My dad worked at a company with these smokestacks, Eastman Kodak. My dad is an engineer for film, cameras, printers. My dad's a brilliant engineer for a very iconic American company, Eastman Kodak. Not the rapper Kodak, different, totally different. That being said, growing up, the environmentalists would point their finger at Kodak. You're polluting the air. You're polluting the water. My dad would be like, hey, shut up. Let us do our job. Making money. We're making movies, And I was like, yeah. We all like to think, mom and dad are always right. And one day I saw these smokestacks coming out of where my dad goes to work. I said, Dad, what's that? Oh, what do you think it is? Looks like a cloud maker. Yeah, son, it's a cloud maker. Yeah. Why is the cloud so black? I never got an answer to that. The the reality is we got to change. Companies got to change. Got to try to find new ways. Poaching animals. This is a graphic image. Might be too much for you, but of course you're familiar with the fact that a lot of African animals, rhinos and elephants mainly, are poached for their horns and their tusks. This is, of course, disrespectful to the species and animals themselves. I went to Africa for a honeymoon and saw a lot of it. It still happens regularly. Now, none of y'all poach rhinos and elephants because none of y'all even been to Africa. We don't have them in Louisiana. But what are things we do to animal species in Louisiana that are bad? Zoos? It's possible. I'm not going to speak against zoos, actually. Tigers and animals actually live longer in the zoo than they do in the wildlife. What? What about alligators? Maybe. Maybe. If you just kill an alligator for the gator boots, maybe. You got to eat that tail. It's, what? One more time. Overhunting. That's what I was thinking of. We've got a limit on how many ducks you can kill. You got a limit on how many deer you can kill, and that's to preserve the species. You go over that, and you're running the earth dry. Um, Even though hunting's good, energy-wise, it's great. You know, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it with the ducks and the deer and whatever else you hunt. And then you got plastic use. Now, this is across the board. Where do y'all see in our current culture the change from plastic? You don't see plastic as much where? Oh, that's the day. That's a wrap. Starbucks, no more straws. Get your paper straws and have a good weekend. All right. Stewardship. Those of you at home, copy down these notes, and that will largely end lesson 3, stewardship of the earth.